The revolution will be televised. It will be on Reddit. It will be tweeted. It will be in the streets. It will be in the Capitol building. The revolution, folks, is here. If you are not convinced that we are in the midst of a fourth turning, I don't know what to tell you. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, the world famous, the wise, the witty, the intelligent, Mr. Nick Hodge. And this is episode 102 of Bizarro World. Nick, first off, how are you?
I feel like the list of superlatives was longer than average this week. It's like we're rekindling our relationship. It's like episode 1 all over again. I'm doing good, Gerardo. How's it going?
I am well. I am running short on popcorn after the week that we had during the Capitol building insurrection and the emotional toll personally that it took, because I love this country and, you know, just everything that ended up resulting. And by the way, the fallout from that has far from settled. But after that week, this past week was really a grab the popcorn, get some Cholula, get a Tito soda, and get some work done, and then just have a blast. Because I was
going to ask you if you put Cholula on your popcorn, because I saw you tweeted that, and I had never seen that. Do you squirt the Cholula on the popcorn, or do you dip the popcorn in like a bowl of Cholula?
I grab my popcorn, I put in bowl, I grab my Cholula, I soak it in there, and I smile at the Redditors.
Nice. I like it. You know Cholula got bought out, right?
Of course it did. I threatened a New York restaurant once in front of Mr. Lutz. I threatened to take their Michelin star away because the waiter came out and he went over the menu, sounded phenomenal. And I said, well, you're a Michelin star restaurant. Can I please have some Cholula? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, well, we don't carry Cholula, sir, but we do have this phenomenal in-house from the chef who is decorated, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him and I said, you're really close to losing one of your Michelin stars, as if I had the power to take it away. And I think he was disgusted, but it was really funny. And I think Mr. Lutz even got a kick out of it. So anyhow, listen, what a week. We could get into gold.
800 million, by the way, that's what Cholula got bought for, and then we'll get on with it. By McCormick, seriously, in November, $800 million. Anyway,
I've been preaching this for years. You've seen me do it in Sweden when we tried caviar that was only apparently available in this town in Sweden that we were in. I asked for Cholula. They actually had it. They were awesome. But yeah, no, I always joke that I tend to be early with everything, and in the speculative universe, it can be costly if you're not careful, right? It's good to be early in position, but you got to be recognized. You got to recognize and be cognizant of your traits and characteristics of your trading stocks professionally and managing your family's wealth. And so I know I tend to be early. I've been preaching the Cholula, message for years on end. The buyout was obviously very profitable for a lot of folks. I was not personally invested. I wish I would have been, but I'd like to think I was a good ambassador over the past several years.
Like it. Let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Look, we could talk gold. Let me spare you. Gold closed at 1845. It was a boring week. We will talk silver, and we'll tie it into the Redditors, because it seems like at the very least we're getting a striptease that silver may be next on their list. But listen, the main event, there were two main events. The main event this week in the markets, obviously GameStop and the list of stocks that the Reddit community decided they were going to correct imbalances with. And let's go right into it. Let's take GameStop. GameStop stock was shorted to the tune of 140% of outstanding shares. What that means, for those of you not familiar with the concept, is hedge funds and fund managers thought that the brick and mortar business that was GameStop was a dinosaur that would go the way of Blockbuster, and they thought they could drive it to the ground by selling into the market shares they did not own. They sold 140% of the existing shares into the market, thinking they'd buy them back at a cheaper price later. The Reddit community, they've been called amateurs. They've been called kids that don't know what they're doing. They've been called the kids in the basement, pissing the parents off, making all the money. You can call them whatever you want. They absolutely nailed that call, along with a couple of other people, Keith McCullough on the professional side of it. And let's be clear again, there's several funds, I'm sure, that are behind, or at the very least accelerated the squeeze. But I have to admit, this was another one of those weeks where you really got to see who was what. And it really looked like two camps to me. The camp that couldn't believe the audacity that these kids on Reddit, these people on Reddit, could outsmart and bring hedge funds to their knees. And they bankrupted two very, very well-known funds, despite the market's attempt to rig it in favor of the funds. And we'll get into that. I got to get your take before we get into the details, because this is going to take the bulk of the early part of this conversation. Were you just as amused as I was?
I think the entire world was amused, Gerardo. People I talk to who have no interest in the market were talking about it. People's kids were asking their parents about it. I was talking to the parents. It was everywhere. I mean, every media outlet, social media was talking about it. And so, the whole thing is fascinating. And we can talk about how it's a sign or a symptom of larger things that are going on. But let's talk about what you're talking about in how, institutions like brokerages, TD, even Robinhood and Reddit itself ended up moderating the channel, came out to sort of, quote unquote, quell the rebellion, as it were, allowing you to only own a certain amount of shares of the stocks or equities in question, only allowing you to buy a certain amount at the same time. And it's interesting that they call them, unsophisticated or, retail or whatever. Like you said, they were the ones able to figure it out. And it seemed like a very us versus them moment. I mean, even Ja Rule was out tweeting. Did you see, hold the line, don't let the, basically against the institutions, right? Which is exactly what a fourth turning is, right? And so whether it was, the movie chain AMC, or there was a car parts company that had these high short interests. Interesting to peek behind the curtain and see how these quote unquote unsophisticated investors could give these hedge funds an ass whooping. I'm not sure if they're bankrupt, but they definitely had to capitulate and throw in the towel on their shorts. And in the case of Melvin, they had to get essentially bailed out by a much larger institution in Citadel. And so so many things you can talk about, but it's just been so crazy for the past year that, this just feels like the flavor of the week, right? Because there's been so many flavors, whether that's the S&P losing 35% of its value last March, or oil going negative also last year, and then coming out of that and now reinflating. I mean, just things that have never happened before. And so it's the story of the week, but really it's emblematic of what's been allowed to occur with the liquidity in the system and free money that's been given out. And I think that it's, another notch in the belt of this bizarro world. And so you really should, not forget and remember how swift the response was. And like you said, you saw who was who. And so, that's what I'd like to do at these events. And we can talk about broader markets as well. And we'll have to get into it because we had 2 hard sell-off days. And I'll have to actually bring up what the close looked like today. But, fantastic to see. And what else I think about, and sorry, I'm hogging the mic here, is it's really a unification, just like you've seen people unite to march on the streets this summer, or on the Capitol a couple of weeks ago on both sides of the political aisle. You see people organizing against the status quo. And I think that's one of the major takeaways here, outside of the ridiculous gains of the stocks.
Listen, let's go over some numbers. And before I give you the numbers, at one point during the week, we had Ja Rule, AOC, and Ted Cruz all agreeing that this was bullshit, right? And let's talk about what was bullshit. What was bullshit was that when it seemed obvious that multiple funds were going to go under, the main trading apps, and it wasn't just Robinhood. This happened in my personal E-Trade trading account. It happened with TD Ameritrade and several other platforms. They decided that you could no longer sell stock in GameStop. You could only buy. And so look, the short selling funds have suffered a mark-to-market loss thus far of nearly $20 billion. $20 billion. And that's, those are just huge numbers. I don't care how big your fund is. That's consequential, right? We talked a few weeks ago about the banning of Trump from Twitter and the banning of other groups from other social media platforms. And we both agreed, I think, that, the violence and the threats and all of that should never be tolerated. And people that engage in that, kick them out. No room for that. That's not a free speech issue. And by the way, these are private companies, right? But we did say it was a slippery slope, because then what happens when you have a situation like this where somebody got the drop on the funds and was squeezing the heck out of them. And the apps, the trading platforms that are funded by a lot of these same institutions, a lot of these institutions are the institutions that provided the seed capital for the Robinhoods of the world to grow. And so you can't tell me, as a logical thinking, half-brained, common sense individual, that if the fund that provided the seed capital to the trading platform is about to go out of business, and the only thing that's necessary to delay or prevent that is the fund calling the trading platform and saying, turn it off, let them buy, don't let them sell. And that's you can't tell me that didn't happen, or that it's not suspicious, or that that's right. I absolutely believe it happened. I saw the CEO of Robinhood on CNBC talking his book, and frankly did a horrible job. I don't think he should have been on there, because he made himself look worse, frankly. And it's a slippery slope when we start deciding who can tweet, who can't tweet, who can trade, who can't trade, what you can trade, what you can't trade. I mean, look, if I buy something on your platform and you don't allow me to sell it, exactly what happened to Robinhood is what's going to happen. You're going to have a lawsuit on your hands. Go defend it in court. And so there's going to be a lot of class action lawsuits. Thus far, listen, the efforts by the platform has not worked. And this speaks to the power of the people and the Redditors. They drove the stock down to 150, 160. And as soon as they were able to find another platform to get back in there, they bought right back. And I think today it closed at something like 360 per share, hit a high of 420, if I'm not mistaken. So no, look, a lot to digest there, but be absolutely clear that whether we're talking societally or economically, philosophically, sexually, this is a fourth turning. It's happening all simultaneously. It's a volatile process, as we've been warning for years. But the events of this week made my heart smile. And I had to jog an extra couple of hours this week because of the Cholula and the popcorn. It was must-watch TV, and in this case, must-watch internet, right?
Oh, I mean, absolutely fascinating. And you talk about the, Citadels of the world or other funds that, kickstarted or seed funded Robinhoods and other free trading platforms, and how they own that. Well, follow the money, right? It's like, and follow the ownership. It's sort of like how, this is where my mind went anyway. We have the Republican debates, the presidential debates, Republican and Democrat, but the institution, or the organization that owns the debate platform is owned by both the Republicans and the Democrats, right? So they can control who gets into the debates and what the messaging and questions are together. And so similar things. And that's what people are, rebelling and uniting and organizing against. And they're doing the same thing in their defense fund, the same way, they organize the Reddit channel. They're organizing crowdsourcing, let's call it, or decentralizing is probably a better and more apt term for what's going on. raising money in a decentralized way to fund the defense, the litigation, right? And so when you start talking about decentralization, you're starting to really talk about what these people are seeking, even if they don't outright know it or say it. And then you start to talk about cryptocurrencies and other things, right? And so it's all par for the course of what's going on right now. Yeah.
And look, let's talk about some of the people that were on the right side of history on this one. Mark Cuban came out and lambasted Robinhood and said this is absolute BS, right? Chamath Palihapitiya, and I know I probably always butcher his name, but he's becoming one of my favorite Twitter people to follow. He's got a mean Twitter game, man, and there's billions behind that Twitter game. He came on and said, this is absolutely the opposite of capitalism. Where were the bailouts for the people in 2008 when it was the other way around? When the funds needed to get bailed out and the people came to the rescue? Where were the stops there? Where was that? We're fighting in Congress over $600 or $1,200 or $2,000 checks. And whatever you feel about the deficit, there has been a trend in motion for the past several administrations, to print our way out of every problem. And it seems like only when the funds or the government is in trouble, everybody's okay with it. And one last point really quick, I mentioned at one point AOC and Ted Cruz agreeing. Just to be clear, it lasted about 3 seconds, right? AOC said, this is unacceptable. As chair of the committee, the finance committee, I will hold a hearing if it's necessary, but an investigation should be launched. Ted Cruz tried to chime in and he tweeted, I fully agree. And immediately AOC said, I am happy to work with Republicans on this issue where there's common ground, but you almost had me murdered 3 weeks ago, so you can sit this one out. Happy to work with almost any other GOP that aren't trying to get me killed. In the meantime, if you want to help, you can resign. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I don't know why anyone messes with that woman on Twitter or in public, because again, I have disagreements on some of her policy points. She's young, she's evolving, but she is brilliant and she is articulate. And I haven't seen anyone get a one-up on her that's real yet in a meaningful way. So, I mean, if you're out there listening and you play the partisan thing, I don't have a dog in the race. Just leave that woman alone on Twitter. You're not going to win that.
Plus, he's just a turd.
I fucking hate Ted Cruz. And I don't say that very often about a lot of people. I hate Ted Cruz. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk Mr. Biden. We got to pivot back there. While we're talking policy, he ordered the Justice Department to end the use of private prisons. He also has signaled that he will be pursuing plans and orders to reunite migrant families with each other. And by that, he means the parents and the little children that were taken away. Yes, it is illegal to come to this country illegally, as my parents did when I was in my mom's belly at 5 months old and they were seeking a better life. But doing something illegal does not mean that you should be separated from your parents when you're 1 or 2 or 3 years old for months on end, taking advantage of, pimped almost literally by contractors and treated in a less than humane way. That's not what a democracy or the idea of a democracy is about. I am glad to see him at the very least signal willingness to look at both of these initiatives, and I hope it I hope it materializes. I don't think that most people, though in America there's quite a few because it's very easy to end up incarcerated or on probation in America, right? But I don't think most people realize just how abusive private contractors are when it comes to prison. We're talking telephone calls that, they're charging $1 or $2 a minute. Meanwhile, these same people are working for 5 and 10 cents an hour. Whatever your crime is, whatever time you have to do, I am all about accountability, right? But again, that doesn't justify abuse. That doesn't justify or mean that all of a sudden you become less than human. And look, like a lot of people say, slavery's been abolished except for prison labor. And that's an absolute fact. And the numbers bear that out. So I hope that this this initiative by the Biden administration gains some traction and that there is actual change. Very easy early in an administration to come in and say all the right things, right? I joked during a company meeting this week that it'd be easy to get people to click on an article, right? I could just say, blonde Bitcoin golden nuggets, and all the right keywords would pop up and it'd get lots of reads. It's just as easy to come out and, you're a new administration, I'm going to do this and that, but we'll be watching. I'll be watching. I'm encouraged by this. It's the right tone thus far. Let's see where it goes. Any thoughts on that, Nick?
A couple of thoughts. It's also, I think we've talked about it on this podcast before, become, we know prison is dangerous, but it's become increasingly more dangerous as it's been privatized, right? And what I mean by that is you're more likely to die in a prison now than you were before it was privatized. And whether that's whatever, failing to de-escalate certain things or failing to provide a certain standard of medical care for illnesses and disease, some of which we saw with the coronavirus outbreaks in prisons during this epidemic. It's private prisons is a long-standing issue for me, and I'm sure for you as well. It's something I've written about multiple times over the years, and good to make progress on that, of course.
Let's talk about accountability. We talked about informants and the use of confidential informants by the FBI several times. I've brought the point up in that there is no data that anyone can access. We don't know who's enabled. We don't know who's out there committing crimes with blanket immunity from the feds. And I speculated, I think here a couple of months ago, that a lot of the people on all sides of the more extreme part of these groups, that I believe several were informants and several were enabled. And that's the only way that I, in my mind, could justify people committing crimes on Instagram and posting them everywhere and literally being proud about it, right? And so now we find out that the Proud Boy leader, and this is important, they said he was a government informant, a prolific one. And it begs the question, he was arrested about a month and a half ago in DC. He's a convicted felon. He was arrested with ammunition, with clips, and with weapons. It took them, I think, 3 weeks for them to go arrest him. And, he was quickly let out on bail, which should have raised suspicions because it's a federal case and usually doesn't happen that way. But I'm really curious to see what the fallout will be, because my spidey senses tell me that something happened with the deal that they had, and he was no longer willing to play ball. And the powers that be decided to tell all his buddies he was a rat. All speculation. But he's not the last one, folks. Don't commit crimes. And if you do, don't be proud about your crimes and put them on TV and Instagram and Twitter and social media. It doesn't go away. Anyhow.
It's incredible. And you're good at sniffing it out because you've commented several times on things out of Mexico, right? About informants and who got arrested and charges that were going to be dropped and been accurate, right?
The general.
Exactly.
Oh God, it's a bizarro world, everybody. Let's talk Bitcoin. The markets are so crazy right now that all it took for Bitcoin to go from 29,000, it was flirting with like that downtrend line, right? Where if it broke 29, 28, you could have seen a nasty reversal from a high of 40,000. And all it took was Elon Musk changing, his profile status and putting a sign that said Bitcoin, a little Bitcoin emoji. That's what it took for it to go from 29 to where it closed today. Right? 38,000. Is that where it closed today? Let's take a peek. We're doing this in real time. 35,000. It pulled back a little bit from 29 to 35,000 on a tweet, or not even on a tweet, on an emoji. It's a casino out there, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you. And there's two ways to play it. And I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Hodge, because I thought you wrote an excellent piece this week on the noise that was GameStop and the Redditors and everything that's going on. I thought your piece was extremely well written. We should put a link to that. There was a lot of substance there on how to play it and how you weren't changing your playbook, how this was popcorn stuff, right? Stuff to look at and smile and laugh. And if that's your cup of tea, go get it. I'll let you summarize the substance behind the article and the piece, Nick, but I thought it was well written. And I thought you were absolutely spot on.
Well, I don't know. Of course, I'm some sort of blind squirrel, as I call myself. And what I was saying is that if you look at bigger markets than, two stocks, right? Or a handful of stocks, if you look at things that actually do matter, like the dollar and the VIX and the bond yields and things like that, and I hadn't seen anything major, right? No major inflections or changes or break of trends or anything like that. And then, of course, we had two major down days for stocks on Wednesday and Friday. But nonetheless, I think the S&P is still in a bullish trend. And until I see basically it break its upward trend, then I'm not really convinced that we're going to get a broad or deep sell-off in stocks. And that doesn't mean that we're not overdue for one. And that doesn't mean that it can't happen. But I guess what I'm saying is that nothing has broken yet. It was a lot of chatter. Everyone had their, feathers in a ruffle. And, but I didn't see anything major break. In fact, I was buying stocks today. I mean, not small cap stocks. I'm talking, large cap stocks. I mean, what you're going to have here, and I'm bear inclined. I mean, make no doubt. I mean, if I lean one way, I'm a glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to the markets. But the numbers that are about to come out, and you're starting to see this already as it relates to earnings, are going to actually be improved because you had such a cut last year from lockdowns that year over year earnings growth is actually going to improve, and other sectors continue to inflate. Commodity prices continue to go up. If you look at lumber, if you look at copper, if you look at Bitcoin here. And so if I see the S&P break a downtrend, or if I see, the dollar's trying to perk up a little bit here, but it hasn't broken trend either. And so, like I say, it's the Reddit thing, the GameStop thing is a side effect. And where we're at here is not going to change based on that. And also, you glossed right over gold in the beginning because it continues to be boring. Right, exactly. But then you see how fast some of those stocks can go up when even there's a sniff, right, of all the Redditors are going to get these precious metals next, and the whole precious metals world gets all excited about that, and you're reminded how fast those things can move. And when you say it's a casino out there, things can move very quickly. And so you want to still be in those sectors that are going to do that once we do get to the next cycle. I hope I made some sort of sense there.
No, absolutely. And what I took away from the article was, look, you can focus on the fundamentals and buy quality stocks and still have exposure to the casino, but you're not betting on the casino being on your side or being rigged or or you being the house. You can actually make incredible speculations. I had a subscriber that wrote in that's been with me since 2016. And, he subscribed to the new service and he had a great question. He said, in 2016, you launched your first paid service. At that point, you said it was a great time to get in. And here we are in 2021. And now you're telling us again that it's a great time to add to your position. And my reply, without, being too long in the tooth here, was in 2016, that was actually the bottom in gold. And yes, sure, the equities lagged, but I've made most of the money I made in 2020 is from positions that I averaged down on from 2016 all the way through the end of 2019. And in 2020, those paid off beautifully. I had 3 full years to write checks. And Nick, because you wrote checks right alongside me on a lot of these deals at just ridiculous prices, right? If these companies weren't going out of business, it was a no-brainer. And so what's happened now in 2021, where we're at now, where I think this is another great opportunity, what I mentioned, everyone's bored with gold. Nobody's grabbing popcorn and Cholula to look at the gold price right now. Nobody's really excited about a lot of even the better names in the precious metals or the resource space. The difference between 2016 and 2021 is it's not going to take another 3 years for that turnaround to happen. This pullback, and let's be clear, a lot of these stocks have pulled back 40, 50, 60% from their August highs when gold broke new all-time highs. That is an absolute gift. It's not going to take 3 years to come out of this consolidation. It's likely to take another month to month and a half. And when it does, it will turn quickly because of what you mentioned with some of the bigger stocks, the blue chip stocks. The baseline is so low. They're coming from such a depressed level that making up 50 and 60%, you can do that in a day on some good results. And you're going to have the trend being your friend. Gold will see new all-time highs. Copper will continue higher. Silver, I don't care if the Redditors get involved or not. It's going higher. It won't go straight up. It never does. But be absolutely clear, this consolidation is the second best opportunity you've had since that initial opportunity back in 2016 and 17 and 18, where you should have been absolutely accumulating the best names and even some of the speculative ones, right? You and I have a mentor and a friend that jokes that he'll write a check for anything under 10 cents right now because he knows in the bull market that we all see coming, the resumption of it, those will be 70 and 80 and 90 cent stocks just off the trend alone. And so the quality companies, those will outperform, and those are the stocks that provide the life-changing gains, right? If you so happen to get the Redditors come in and support the silver market or the precious metal stocks, that's the cherry on top. But that's not the cake.
Just hope those 10-cent shares is not like the third or fourth round being done, right?
I'm writing a check here soon for another 10-cent private placement, Nick. I started at 3. I wrote one as high as 30. I'm now back to 10. And I suspect by the end of the summertime, it's going to be a great Christmas and fall. We'll see.
We will see.
Matter of fact, I'll give you all the name just so you can hold me accountable out there. It's Nevada Sunrise Gold. It just announced a financing today. $250,000 one, a small one. I'll likely reach out to subscribers if there's an opportunity for them to participate. I'm absolutely participating. And look, I already own quite a bit. I know you do as well, Nick, but let's do a real life exercise. Gerardo's buying 10-cent Nevada Sunrise Gold shares after having a whole lot of them and paying what I just told you I've paid in the past, from 3 cents to 30. Let's see how that works out between now and year end.
We'll see.
All
Results
right.
coming.
Results are coming. We have 40 holes in the lab. You know what else we have? We have Bernie the socialist, as they like to call him, raising $1.8 million for charity through the Bernie mittens. This makes my heart smile. This is, I talk about how much I hate and dislike Ted Cruz because I think he's a weasel and spineless and only cares about himself. And can't even be respectful or, protective of his wife when Trump called her out. And anyhow, enough of him. Bernie, I disagree with some of his policy stuff. The most of it was put in place by the Trump administration and is going to be continued under the Biden administration. But hey, every chance he gets to do good, he seems to get it right. $1.8 million to charity through the Bernie mittens. Did you see that story?
I didn't see the charity story, so go on, but I have comments on the meme, so I'll be dumb after you tell us about the charity.
Well, very, very simple, right? Everybody saw the memes. The memes were amazing. They were hilarious. And, he turned this into a $1.8 million windfall by his team started putting together Chairman Sanders merchandise that included t-shirts and sweatshirts and stickers on the campaign website. It sold out in less than 30 minutes. And he raised more than $1.8 million and just gave it all to charity. Again, call him what you want. I'm a capitalist at heart. That sounds like capitalism at its best.
You're taking the money and giving it away. If you can raise it, you can do what you want with it, right? The meme was absolutely everywhere. That was one of the first ones, and I feel like a couple of months that was truly ubiquitous. Like everyone had the conservatives. I was even getting sent Bernie memes, and everyone. Even local food blogs and local companies with Instagram pages are advertising with the place putting Bernie in the corner of their restaurant or whatever it is. And so literally everybody is doing it. And I think one of the funniest comments that I saw about the whole thing was, y'all will literally put Bernie Sanders everywhere except in the president's office.
And let's be clear, everybody, neither party wanted him there. Democrats did as much to derail his latest bid as anyone else did. So again, I don't have a dog in the fight. I am a fan of people that are for the people. I am a fan of people that push boundaries and peacefully and respectfully incite dialogue and an exchange of ideas. I love it. I think that speaks to the better part of our society when we're able to do that. I think we've done, so much less of that in the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And I hope we can get back to it. But this made me smile. I thought it was good. It's my happy, positive story. It was neat. It was good.
It was good.
Did you want to talk about mask?
Well, I don't want to because they've been so fucking politicized that no one wants to talk about the masks. But I'm not sure this 2 masks thing passed the common sense test for me. Maybe I got to read the science, but should we wear, everyone is asking now, should we wear 3 masks? Should we wear 4 masks? Like, how many masks are enough? And if it's like a filtration thing, why don't we just get like 1 mask with the appropriate filtration? I just think the number of masks should just be, I don't know, 1 and have the proper filtration. I just wanted to make sure we had it in here for the zeitgeist and for future generations that we talked about the 2 masks.
It's been an interesting journey the past year. We're coming up on February now. We're getting close to that 12-month mark where most of us knew that something was changing and something was afoot, right? And nobody thought it would last a year because, frankly, this is a problem that we could have taken care of in 60 days had we reacted appropriately. But it's not where we are as a society right now. I tell you where we are though. There is a tale of 2 worlds, and we've talked about this. I talked last week about the piece I wrote a couple of weeks ago about the roaring 20s being back, and we've talked about wealth inequality and how central bankers and the Fed, absolutely have everything on steroids right now. And I was reading a story about a mall in the desert near the West Coast. And there was a mall that had an appraised value last year of $28 million, Nick. Do you know what that mall just sold for?
$500,000.
Little higher. You tend to be a bit more pessimistic than I do. It was just over $1 million.
I wasn't far off.
You were not far off, by the way. A year later, it went from $28 million to $1 million. So when you see the stock market, which, by the way, the major indices here in the U.S. just had their worst week since October. I get it, but still near record highs. When you see the stock market just continue to do what it's doing and churning and turning, again, most people aren't benefiting from that, which is, again, why I'm so amused at the Redditors and the decentralization of everything. I want everything decentralized for the most part, if I'm being perfectly frank, right? But yeah, that just blew my mind. Meanwhile, here in Austin, this numbers I just got from my realtor today. She sent me a link because I asked her a few questions. She said homes are selling at 20% above the asking price on average. That's average. Here in Austin, the median home sale price increased by 20% last year. There were 63% fewer homes on the market than last November, this during a pandemic. And so, and it's projected to be even more exaggerated this year in Austin and the surrounding areas. And so it's 2 different playing fields out there. Obviously there's a reason why residential real estate is in vogue. Obviously only the people that are able to sustain the type of income that allows you to go and spend 20% above the asking price on average are benefiting from it. And there are a lot of people on the other side that are seeing, property values go from 28 million to 1 million. And so I say all that to say, be careful out there, everyone. If you're throwing, whatever is play money to you, that could be $1,000 or I had a gentleman I spoke with earlier today that said he hadn't, gambled in the market for a while. So he threw he said it was like $200,000, which to him is like $2,000 to me, right? But he put it out there to short the market because he thought that it was on the verge of a collapse. I'm not saying it's on the verge of a collapse. I don't believe that actually, but whatever your play money number is, if you want to throw it into a GameStop or, one of these crypto plays that they're touting, or the silver space, which is rumored to be targeted by the Redditor people, that's fine. Just understand that you're gambling and understand that that's exactly what you're doing. Cause these are not normal times, everybody. Not normal times by any stretch of the imagination.
I think I'm going to skip the gambling and build a pool.
How is that pool coming along?
Staked. We're staked.
Congrats.
Oh, thanks.
What else is on the list, Mr. Hodge? What else do you want to talk about? There's a lot of names in the gold space because it's boring right now that that deserve a mention, especially during this pullback. But do you have anything top of mind?
Let me talk about the magic cards for 1 second.
Oh, I like magic cards.
And then we can get to the gold, because I can build in a segue to the gold names. So we were talking a little bit about crypto. Obviously, we talked about Bitcoin when it went over 40,000. We were talking about it a bit again today. And I saw a story earlier this week. I actually sent it to you, Gerardo, because it caught my eye about this guy who spent $35,000 on a digital sports card. It's not a baseball card because it was basketball, but it's a tokenized video of this rookie doing a slam dunk, basically, is what you need to know. And you can see this video anywhere. If you just type in the basketball player's name and hit video on your Google search or on YouTube or whatever, you can see this clip. But just like, you used to trade baseball cards and buy and sell baseball cards, and some baseball cards are rare and sought after and collected, etc. We're now tokenizing moments and calling them digital art. Now, to be clear, there is digital art, digital paintings, graphics, all sorts of kinds of digital art. But what I'm talking about now specifically is tokenized video clips of sports games that people are buying and selling for tens of thousands of dollars. In the article I shared with you, and then I actually ended up writing an article about how Daily Profit Cycle was this guy's journey buying a video clip for $35,000 of a slam dunk. And he chronicled his history of buying and selling tokenized video clips. And he has been making a profit, like a 50% profit with an average hold time of 1.5 or 2 days, right? And so you just talk about euphoria in the market, and you talk about alternative assets, and this might take me a while, so I'll get there. Give me a second. And he also quote tweeted Chamath Palihapitiya, talking about how positing, in fact, maybe people will come to value more alternative asset classes, not only like digital tokenized sports clips, but perhaps like rare art and cars and other collectibles. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know a little bit about collectibles and the collectibles market, and I have some tangential connections to some people that have done some things in that market. So let me put it in this context, right? Is this going to be something new, or is this something that people are already exploring? Because you and I, Gerardo, have been talking about alternative assets and people moving because of taxes and record art sales we've talked about on this podcast, for example, and other things, right? And so I had to think about Collector's Universe, right? Which grades actual baseball cards and rare collectibles and things, right? And I'm sure you do, that it was just sold, and it was sold to an investor group run by Steve Cohen, who also owns the New York Knicks, but they also just increased their bid to like $92. It's like $1 billion sale or something like that, or getting dang close to it. And so I was thinking to myself, if you think that alternative asset classes are a place to be, and we did like 6 years ago, because I did a whole fucking promo about it and told people to buy Collector's Universe when it was $15.
And how much is it now?
You could have executed on the strategy by buying like a NASDAQ listed company that paid dividends as opposed to a tokenized clip of a basketball video game for $35K. And so that's not to say that tokenized video clips aren't going to become the next big thing. This guy was saying he poo-pooed Bitcoin 10 years ago too, right? So, I'm not going to pick and choose which technologies and tokens and things are going to be adopted. But sticking on the card theme, I also saw this week that a Magic the Gathering card has sold for another record, right? $511,000. And so I just wanted to have a little segment here on the theme of cards, because here's another card, an actual card for a game, Magic the Gathering, that's sold for $500,000. One single card. And so if you want to look for inflation or liquidity in the system or money sloshing around, this is clearly evidence of that. And then I know you want to get to the gold names, and it's not hard to go from alternative assets to junior gold names, because let's just go down the Reddit scale, right? Okay, silver is the next big thing, or precious metals are the next big thing. Where are we going to go? Okay, we're going to go into Fortuna, and we're going to go into Endeavor. Well, okay, where the fuck are you going to go next, right? I mean, where are you going now? And so it's going to be to the companies that own the ounces in the ground or that are exploring for them, right? And that's how cycles get kickstarted, right? Mines flood or chat rooms spill over, let's say.
I'll take you one further on that, and that was great, by the way. The insight was fantastic. Two things. You mentioned Collector Universe. It was $15 then. How much is it now?
Oh God, the bid was 92 for the takeout. It was like 70, and I think they upped it to 92. That might not be exactly right, but it's something like that.
So there's that. That's the one thing. And my thought, because my weird brain and where it goes, is the euro and that currency, that's gonna blow up like a lot of this other stuff. The euro might as well be a trashy crypto coin, or a digital video that's been tokenized. Its days are numbered, and I don't know if that happens in a year, in 6 months, in 2 years. I know it will be restructured, and a lot of that capital is already starting to flee into the US, which is why I'm still bullish on the major US indices, why I'm still bullish on, anything that can catch a bid in dollars, right? It's why we're seeing baseball cards catch record bids, and art and everything that you can exchange a piece of paper for. That's a trend that's going to continue, and it will spill over to the junior resource space. One thing that I just saw, and again, I got to touch on it because it speaks to the stupidity of our politicians on both sides. On the same day, that being today, that outdoor dining is officially resumed in LA County, public health officials announced today, that restaurants will not be allowed to have their televisions on for customers. No comment. I don't even want to. I'll dig if you want me to.
Are they allowed to use their phones to buy and sell stock while they're in the restaurant?
While I dig that up, here's another one for you. And this is just the platforms trolling, right? This is Robinhood trolling. Robinhood, you can buy GameStop stock, but you can only buy one share.
That's crazy, man. And of course, the Robinhood memes have also been great in quotes about, not standing up for the people and bowing to the sheriff of Rottingham and all that stuff, right?
It's been great. Let's see what the ban is about. The county issued an order Friday which bans restaurants from allowing television screens that broadcast programming to patrons in an effort to keep restaurants from becoming overcrowded for sporting events such as the upcoming Super Bowl. So again, this is what happens when you let overreaching government expand on its powers. It's why last week I talked about applauding the young senator who opposed giving the government any new authorities as a result of the Capitol Hill insurrection and the riots that happened, because there's already laws in place that can address the crimes that were committed. There's already mandates in place. There's already rules for restaurants, social distancing rules that they have to follow. Telling them that they can't turn the TV on is just government being stupid and being assholes. And this is the type of stuff. This is why Governor Newsom, and I know this was a county order, but it's the culture, right? It's like we talk about corrupt police culture. And again, kudos to the good cops. And there's a lot of you out there, but speak up more, one. And two, the culture is what allows the bad behavior to happen. I absolutely believe that Gavin Newsom has done an absolutely atrocious job. I have a cousin that lives in California. We have friends that live in California at just about everything. And at one point, I was a big fan of Governor Newsom back in the days when he was mayor. But this is just, it's spiteful, it's stupid, it's government just being government to remind everybody who's in charge. And it's why people are protesting a lot of these orders, because it becomes very hard to be rational when you have this type of stuff going on in our government. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, when they don't pass the sniff test, like the 2 masks, right? It's when it goes against your common sense. And yeah, you can look at what's going on in some European countries, for example. And we'll see. Let's get this vaccine out, and we'll see how these new variants do.
Let's do it. It seems positive thus far. We've had, I think there's 3 vaccines. I just saw an article with Dr. Fauci who is saying that most teens will be vaccinated by the spring and or summertime. That's encouraging. At the very least, you should have the option of being able to get a vaccine if you want one. That is a leap forward that I think is welcomed, whether you want to take the vaccine or not. Let's talk some gold, copper, resource, or non-resource names. As you know, Mr. Hodge is a master of all sectors here. That should be on your radar this week. I'll throw one out there. They've been very public about the fact that its resource at the Sandman project in Nevada will be announced this coming week. That's a company by the name of Gold Bull Resources is what it's called. I interviewed the CEO last week, I believe, Cherie Leiden. Great network of contacts. It's not a coincidence she was able to pry that project away from Newmont. I don't believe it's the last deal that she will execute on. She has a resource at Sandman of approximately 300,000 ounces. I think that obviously is going to change this coming week. The stock held up well this week, and she's got a very, very aggressive and ambitious goal of taking the resource base for the company spread across multiple assets to 5 million, not 5 years from now, not 4 years from now. She wants to get to 5 million ounces by the end of 2021. Market cap right now is right around the 32 million mark Canadian. I've said it before, it's not going to sit there very long. If she comes anywhere close to growing that resource base in a jurisdiction like Nevada to 5 million ounces. So Gold Bull Resources, should look at that one. Ticker symbol GBRC on the Venture Exchange. Anything on your...
Does that mean it's my turn?
Unless you don't want it to be. I have, me. I can...
No,
I can keep going.
I can do it. So the next week, it's probably the next 2 weeks. But it was actually one we talked about last week that I had taken some profits on. But, as things go in cycles, you can buy back things that you sometimes sell. And so Critical Elements ran really hard last week. We talked about it. I took profits almost 400%. And just a portion of the position, just 20% of the position. And we talked about why last week. And now it's pulled back. It's pulled back here almost to $1, like $1.07 or something. Shook out $1.14. It looks like it closed at. But they just raised a bunch of money right at that level, right around $1.10. And they got permitting coming here in the next 2 weeks, or at least it's going to get like the final stuff in front of the government. So that's one to keep an eye on. And then a non-resource one, just to keep it spicy, is Immunoprecise, which is one I haven't talked about in a while, but and it's quite expensive. But a couple of things. One, you got these new strains coming, and they got clinical data coming out soon. Their platform is well equipped to deal with mutating strains. And two, it's now fully NASDAQ listed. Institutions can come in and buy, and in fact have been buying can see that data now, and it's closed the consecutive 2 days at its second and third highest Canadian close ever. And so it feels like it wants to break out in that respect. And so with this virus still very much here, and with ImmunoPrecise now on the NASDAQ and data out soon, it might be one to take a look at as well.
I like it. I'll give you all one more. Give you your money's worth here. It's a free podcast, so you get what you pay for. But it's one I'm biased on. Every name I mention, you should know I'm biased. I either own it, or they're a sponsor on the website, Resource Stock Digest, or I know the management team, and I likely have skin in the game in one way or the other. Aguila American Gold, ticker symbol AGL. Very familiar with management. They have assays pending. This is a stock that just under a month ago traded as high as 67 cents. It closed today at 27 cents Canadian. The direct result of a private placement, which I participated in. I believe you did as well, Nick. Is that accurate?
Coming due. Yeah, I was watching.
Yeah, right. So that's, coming due. It's coming free trading. People are front running it and selling into the market. I think it's a heck of an opportunity. They have a great network. They have a good asset, and I think they'll be rolling in some other very attractive assets. And, once this gold market takes off again, and it will, I think that's a heck of a speculation for your dollar. Market cap is absolutely ridiculously tiny. Give that one a go.
I would like to see those results. It's in my neck of the woods.
Looking forward to it. That is all I have on my end. I was going to talk about the Houston DA. I will save that for next week. I think that's a good place to leave things. Anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to get off your chest there, Mr. Hodge?
No, order your flowers now. Valentine's is coming up. Don't get stuck in your house without getting your wife something for the holiday.
There you go. That's all for this week, folks. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, Mr. Nick Hodge. This was episode 102 of Bizarro World. Be kind to everybody.
You might even get some stimulus.
Más stimulus. Bye, guys.